Losing time, I'm fading fast. I just wanna make it last. Try to let go of the past. I close my eyes, embrace the blast. Sleepless nights and headaches stack. Restlessness to hell and back. What's my purpose? What do I grab? A slippery surface, a heart attack. And sometimes you just gotta believe there's something that'll give you relief. There's something that'll have what you need, what you need. We're broken, it's tragic, we're not all elastic, but maybe there's magic, believe you could have it. And I know of sadness, the anxious and panic, the infinite vastness of all that is blackness.
Hello, welcome to Tile Coach, another live stream here. I'm really happy to be here and grateful that I have Nathan with Vision Stone and Tile. You might know him on Instagram. Recently, his channel has been doing really well, and I've talked back and forth with Nathan over the years, and we've had a lot of great conversations. I respect him as an installer, and also he's just very creative and has a good online presence. He has a YouTube channel as well at Nathan Tiles the World. So I'm really stoked to have Nathan. Let's bring him on. Hey, Nathan.
Howdy. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for doing this on short notice. I just hit you up this morning and glad you could make it happen. I love doing these live streams to connect with my viewers, and they get to ask some questions, and I want them to be able to get to know you a little bit. So, Nathan, where are you currently operating out of?
Hartville, Ohio, which is northeast Ohio. It's maybe an hour south of Cleveland.
Okay.
So it's just off kind of the bottom of the snow belt.
Okay.
So yeah.
Right on. Hey, for the viewers, is our audio good? I'm kind of new at this live stream software thing, so just want to give me a thumbs up if we both sound good, or if one of us needs to turn up or something. I'll make that adjustment. So Nathan, before you were in Ohio, I remember when I first got to know you, you were in Wyoming, correct?
Yeah, we were there. So me and my wife, I don't know how many questions you have to get through, but I tend to just like dive off, right?
Oh, let's go, man.
So if that's okay.
We're just
Yeah,
chopping
yeah,
it up.
yeah. So when I was like 19 or 20, somewhere in there, I think I got married when I was 19. My memory in terms of dates is terrible. Like if you want to talk strange and random trivia, like I'm down for that. But as soon as we start talking dates, like things get blurry quick.
Mm.
So I got married somewhere around 19 or 20, and then me and my wife decided to move to Wyoming. Just I don't want to say out of the blue at the time. We felt strongly that it was a providential thing, and so I went to a Bible school in Pensacola, Florida. This is part of my backstory that a lot of people don't know, and I I pastored for 10 years and all that. So we packed up a four-cylinder Ford Ranger and the smallest U-Haul truck that there was, which was like a 10-foot U-Haul truck because we didn't have very much. And without having ever been there or visited or anything, we just moved to Wyoming. In fact, we had not even seen like the Mississippi River, anything. We just packed up and moved. And that worked out great for us. We were young, and that's the time to do that sort of thing because you don't have as much trepidation about what about this and what about that. So we just packed up and moved, and ended up living there for 10 years. Three children were born there, and
Wow.
it had a very just profound impact on both of us being in a state that wild and free. It's a beautiful, wild and free state that a lot of people don't really know much about.
Yeah, and I think more and more people are learning about it and have moved there through the pandemic, and with a lot of the restrictions that were placed on us during the pandemic. I think a lot of people wanted to get out of cities, especially here on the West, San Francisco, LA, kind of a mass exodus, and Wyoming was one of those spots that people were moving to. There was Boise, Idaho, and Austin, Texas, and a few other kind of hotbeds. Tennessee is a big one.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it's more common. Probably it probably has more people moving in maybe than it ever has, and more people know about it. I know I've looked at it and I go, man, that place looks freaking amazing. The
Yeah.
Tetons in Yellowstone. I mean, it just looks incredible. So so
Yeah.
you enjoyed your time there?
Yeah. Wyoming is the 50th on the population list. If you
Yeah.
look at how many people are there, there's like 500,000 people in the whole state, and the state is huge. It's like the 10th biggest state, which
Hmm.
it's not, it's not as big as Alaska and Texas and California, but it's a very big state. It's very comparable in size to like Montana and Colorado,
Hmm.
and so that's big sky country out there. And Wyoming is it's less friendly in terms of climate and the geography. Nature there,
Hmm.
it's trying to hurt you all the time. Montana is a little more friendly, but its scenery is not so friendly all the time to you either. And Colorado is a little more friendly, but Wyoming's very aggressive. The landscape is super aggressive, so a lot of people are
Windy.
intrigued by it, but to live there is tough. Yeah, because it's like we were 6,000 feet in the air. The wind never stopped, and the snow. I mean, it's a frozen tundra all winter.
Yeah.
But if you can look past all of that, I mean, the beauty is it's unsurpassed in the lower 48.
Yeah, and I always wonder how many people have moved out of California, the San Francisco Bay Area, and Los Angeles, and moved to a place like that, and then they're like spend a
Mhm.
year, spend a winter, and they're like, I'm good. I'm wondering if they're gonna come back, but yeah, I'd like to visit. I haven't been there, but I definitely is intriguing. I'd like to visit. Nathan, I want to get to. So you had this Instagram reel that came up, and I don't know how long ago it was. It was this year though, and I remember seeing it and seeing this mosaic, and I enjoy mosaics. I like mosaic tile. I like a lot of the old world mosaics that are in Europe
Mhm.
that are thousands of years old. It's just a beautiful art form to me. And of course, we got the mass manufactured sheet mosaics that are all over the place now that we're installing on shower floors and backs and niches and backsplashes and whatnot. But this one that you did just kind of blew me away. And I think I commented to you, I said, man, this is the mosaic of the year. This is the best mosaic that I have seen anywhere that anybody has made. And I think it just fit. It was one of those art forms that just fit the situation like
Mhm.
perfectly. The colors, the theme, the feel, everything. I was like, man, you just nailed it. And I've seen some a lot of tile guys that are doing their own mosaics, and some even specialize in it. You've probably seen the one with the this octopus or the
Right.
octopus one, which took incredible skill. I mean, to pull that off, that was pretty incredible. But as far as like, I wouldn't want it in my shower. Like, I think it was cool, but I was kind of like
Mhm.
almost a little weird. And I'm not putting it down at all. That's just my taste, and I'm sure a lot of people really like it. But yours, I was just like, boom, that is something that I want in my shower. And so it's just really cool. Let me play it here for those of you who haven't seen it. So that's just a little clip of it, and it looks like it's made out of uh, pebbles that were probably on a sheet. Am I right, Nathan?
Yeah, it was. So I can just talk about that for a little bit if you'd like.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to.
I'm happy to hear you say the things that you said about it because, Joshua, who does his mosaics, I think he is hands down extremely talented. I mean, one of the best out there. I think Lee Callowert, he is phenomenal. Josh Nordstrom, he's phenomenal. I follow this guy who does glass mosaics. Danilo Bonanza is his name. And then there's the mosaicist, Ray, down in South Florida.
Hmm.
Those guys are all in a league of their own,
Hmm.
and a few others. But a lot of times we as artisans we get liberty, but we're also beholden to what our clients want. And, um, and so it's not often, for me at least, that I'm able to express a design of my own that has the elements that I would like to see in it, right? And has the symmetry and the balance and the flow and all of that that I would like to see. I mentioned all those other guys because I'm with you. The octopus that Josh did is the craftsmanship is it's next level, right? It's level 99. It's at the
Yeah,
top.
it's
But
incredible.
I wouldn't want it in my house either. And once, like you said, that's no knock on it, but it's just like I don't want a giant glow in the dark octopus in my shower. I just,
Mhm.
it's just not me. And so I feel that way about, I'm not a hypercritical person toward people. I, I try and be as empathetic and understanding as possible toward personalities and toward individuals. But
Mhm.
when it comes to creativity and tile work, especially, um, I don't know. I don't like much. I don't like much at all. And I would say 99 out of 100 of these things where people try and get creative with mosaics and that sort of stuff, I just don't like them. And that's just me personally. I know a lot of people do, but I will say maybe based a little bit on the response that I've gotten from this shower, that a lot of people are kind of right there with me. And maybe they just don't know how quite to articulate it. They don't quite know, you don't want to sound critical of something that requires that level of
Mhm.
craftsmanship, but you just don't quite like it, right?
Mhm.
And so when I get to do artistic things like this shower, there are certain themes, like words, that are always kind of bouncing around in my head, right? And one of them is very much balance, right? It is symmetry. And I don't necessarily mean symmetry. We think of symmetry often when people hear that word, they think of like 50-50 divisions. They think of equal parts and all that. I don't mean that. I mean symmetry in terms of the symmetry that we see in nature, right? The
Mhm.
types of balance and symmetry and flow and, corresponding textures and colors and all that sort of thing
Mhm.
that you just find around you in nature. Um, the last thing I ever want for anything that I do is to feel like it was plugged in, right? In a way that's, it's like a child trying to smash the square block into the round hole or whatever.
Mhm.
Things have to fit. They have to
Mhm.
fit well. And I don't this is tough, I think, to really tell people, like, I'm not great necessarily at always expressing artistic things or creative things, because for me it's always like my wife gets really mad at me because she's like, I can't do this or that. I'm like, God, you just do this, right? And when you say those sort of things to people, you just do it this way.
Mhm.
That is a statement it's encapsulating thousands of processes and things that go on intuitively inside of you that you feel, right? It's your intuition. You're going off of those. That's how I work, right? My processes are very intuitive. I go off of, how it feels. I look at it and I step back and I look at it again. I try and get multiple angles and perspectives on the feeling of it, right? I'm not necessarily talking about the what my eyes are seeing, but what is this perspective doing to me in terms of my intuition, right?
Mhm.
In terms of how it's striking me, how I'm interacting with it, that sort of thing. And I do wish, as a very artistic person, that I had more clients like this one that gave me the type of liberty that this one did. I'm very hopeful. If you need to cut me off, you do that. But if a person were to go through, say, my Instagram and just look at a lot of the stuff that I've done, there's a lot of very creative things in there. But usually those things are within a box, right? They're
Mhm.
within parameters that we're given with within which we operate.
Safe. Yeah.
This one had a Yeah, this one had a few of those parameters, but Um, the contractor is a close friend of mine in Wyoming. I used to do all of his houses when I lived there. On this project, he really gave me liberty, and it was great. And he had input, and we bounced things back and forth off each other. But he let me feel my way through this, and it was one of, I would say it was the most satisfying project I've ever
Mm-hmm.
done,
Mm-hmm.
and that's that's huge for me. I mean, I'm a feelings guy, right? And I'm looking for the satisfaction of that project, not just when it's done, but through the process. And that's hard to come by when you're just labor for hire.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you hit on a couple things. I think as you move forward, in my experience, these things kind of unfold. You do this project and you found out that you really enjoy it. It took directions that you probably didn't even envision, and now here you are. Your follow count went way up. I saw you had
Hmm.
a reel with over 1 million views on it. I mean, that's
Hmm.
incredible. That type of exposure is incredible. So you'll probably start to go down a path where people will see your work and they'll reach out and go, yeah, hey, I got these ideas, but I want your input on it, and these are the colors I like, and this is kind of the theme we're going for. But Nathan, here, you take it and you run with it.
Hmm.
Trust you. We've seen what you've done with other projects, and that's usually how those things unfold. Also, I heard you talked about criticism and being an artist, being creative, and putting these things out. And I can totally relate to that. It's not a easy thing to do. I've been doing it to a certain extent with YouTube. I don't know. I mean, I think what I do is a form of art. It's not
Hmm.
really real art, but it's a form. I don't. It's a form of art, but I'm putting creative stuff out there, and some people like it, and some people don't. And what I've learned is that getting criticism has also shaped the path of where my videos have gone. I I mean, I don't really like criticism, but I almost welcome it, and I don't put
Hmm.
the same value on every criticism because some people are just being jerks just to be jerks, and but some people are really giving you their feeling that they're getting right because everybody. That's the thing with art. You're going off of what you feel, but then it's reciprocated because other people are getting feelings like I did when I saw yours, and so whether that's positive or negative, I try to at least take a look and go, okay, um, that took some courage for that person to say that. Because like you said, it's not easy to criticize some people, but for
Hmm.
I think it's almost necessary for an artist to really become who they were meant to be like that. And so, yeah, what do you think about that?
Um, well, first of all, making videos is absolutely an art. Um, I think that actually life is art. If you think about now, I don't want to get too philosophical, but you're even on a physical level. If we were to stick maybe strictly in the material world, right? Your body is always creating. It's never not creating something. It's
Mm-hmm.
always synthesizing something. It's always moving. It's always rearranging. It's always making something new.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also always dying in ways too at the same time. It's doing both always. And so there's a balance there between it. It's life is art, right? Life starts, you know, biogenesis, if you will. There's a beginning to it. There's something that starts it and that sparks it and creates something.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard it said once that man is most like God when he is creating. And that resonated with me. That was probably 10 years ago that I heard that, and it stuck
Mm-hmm.
with me for a long time. And you know, I a friend of mine who Andrew, E-Tile,
Mm-hmm.
he used to always make jokes about tile not being art. But the thing is that's coming from a guy, Andrew, who is very artistic. He's
Mm-hmm.
very creative.
Mm-hmm.
and very artistic person. So part of what he was saying was always kind of smug because he knows how to paint, he knows how to draw, right? That sort of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But it doesn't necessarily mean that what he was saying um, harmonizes with the rest of, how the rest of us feel.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, uh, I like I said, I don't want to get too philosophical about things, but I'm with Dostoevsky when he talks about beauty saving the world. I think that beauty is something that all of us should aspire to, and not necessarily beauty as it's found in um, from Hollywood, right? Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
not. I don't. That's the cliche thing to say, but that's a certain form of beauty, and I don't even want to disparage that because those are beautiful people. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, us cynics who are not in their shoes, we just like to criticize. But the fact of the matter is they're also beautiful people, and they're creating art.
Mm-hmm.
And so a person can have all their own internal dialogue about what is and is not art. I feel that you will never actually become creative and become artistic until you start to view whatever it is you're doing as art.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a very Zen thing, right? It's the art of living. There's, life is art, and I know I keep saying that, so I'll get off of that for a second. But things flow. Everything flows. There's a grace to everything. There's a movement to everything. There's a way in which things harmonize always, and um, and that's what good art is, and that's why cheap art. That's why I don't want to say pretentious. That's why art that is motivated from an ulterior place, it doesn't speak to
Doesn't.
people in the same way, right? Because you
Yeah.
feel that. You,
Yeah.
you can feel ulterior motives.
Yeah. It goes along with like with music. There's just certain
Right.
albums where the band had it, whatever it is, and it's like a lot of them they can do it again, but for many they can't replicate it. It was just something that was coming from a pure place. It's usually early on in their career or when they very first start to make it, they put out an album that just almost every song is a hit, and
Hmm.
this is back in the day. I'm probably dating myself when full albums would come out, right? But that happens a lot, and then usually money gets involved, ego gets involved, and then the
Right.
music, as hard as they try, as hard as they grind in the studio, it just doesn't materialize again. I'm gonna play I want to see. I have a little video of you making the mosaics. I want to play this, and so we can see how it kind of comes together. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong one. Hi, Nathan. Told you I'm still getting
It's
used
me.
to this.
Yeah.
Here we go. Oh, so there's your Etsy page. I hope we can talk about that too, because I'd like everybody to know where
Sure.
they can buy one. So you're making a template to to make not this. Did you make a template for the original one?
No, the original. Well, I made a template. Can you pause it at all? These are on
Yeah.
Instagram, or you just
Yeah.
save
No, I
the?
can pause that.
Yeah. So pause that one right there if you
Hmm.
can.
Yeah.
So that's a template made out of MDF. There's two pieces there. For the
Okay.
original one, and I just used a router to get the outline, right? So
Okay.
the original one
Oh,
I
sorry.
drew on the ground. That's okay.
Okay.
On the contractor's subfloor, actually, I drew it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was from a reference photo. And I had a particular image in mind of the Grand Tetons that I knew was wide and would work well for the space of this horizontal niche.
Mm-hmm.
So the original one I drew on the ground, and it turned out great. He loved it. I had some issues with it, but I couldn't quite create what I'm doing here. What you see in this picture, this is kind of what I had visualized doing. I just didn't have the means nor the time to do that in that shower that we were looking at earlier. So
Mm-hmm.
then, once I did the original one, um, this was just a better way to go about it. I have this template that gives me kind of a more accurate outline of the Tetons, and The reason I wanted that is because the Tetons are very iconic. So I just wanted to capture some of the iconic peaks there, and also because so many people were interested in buying it, I wanted it to be somewhat um, repeatable, right? I didn't want
Hmm?
too much variant from product to product, even though each one honestly they're all vastly different.
Yeah.
They all do have though the same feel and accomplish the same thing.
Yeah, so there you are, placing the pieces in, and then you put a plastic. Let me see. I got this one too.
Hudson filmed that there at the beginning. My
Oh,
9-year-old videographer.
nice. And so you use a Dremel. Looks like you use a Dremel as well.
The Dremel, I just started experimenting with that recently.
Mm-hmm.
It's just for real fine tuning stuff. The
Mm-hmm.
pebbles, I'm doing all the shaping of the pebbles with just my nippers, compound nippers and regular nippers. But you know how that goes. Sometimes you just, when you really got to get something fine, you can't quite nip it off of there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't have like a ring saw. I'd like to get a ring saw at some point.
Oh, so
Um,
you could actually cut full circles around stuff.
well, I don't not no. So do you know what a ring saw? It's one of those hollow diamond ring
So
blades.
you can
It's kind of
cut.
like a band saw. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, right,
Yep.
right. You got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't want one of those to like do everything because I actually like nipping. I like the this is going to sound counterintuitive, but anytime people are like, do this and that, it's more efficient. I I I don't like it. I don't like efficiency. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want to bust each piece with my hands, and so I do. Something about the process, doing it that way, that I thoroughly enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't. I like to take my time with a lot of stuff, and it's. I make no. I don't try and hide that from anyone. If if I could, I would find contractors who are of the same philosophy, maybe your designers or people to work with
Mm-hmm.
that tell you things like slow down and take your time, because that's not what we hear. We hear, I hate to say
Yep.
this, but many contractors are just professional schedulers,
Yeah.
and that's fine. Um, you know, money does not necessarily motivate me in the same way that it does people that really get off on efficiency and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely not knocking that. The more money I charge, the more time I can take, right? And that's why I want to charge more money, because I want to take more time on each project. I mean, I want to work at a very slow pace, and it's not because I'm lazy and because I don't work hard. Um, I'm a workaholic. I don't stop. When I was in Wyoming, I worked basically 7 days a week for 10 years straight, right? Because
Wow.
I had a retail store, I had
Mm-hmm.
crews, I had an installation business, and I pastored a church. And so I'm I'm not afraid of hard work, not at all. What I've learned actually through all of that hard work are some very valuable and precious lessons to me, and that is primarily when most people are so driven in that way to just work hard, grind, faster, faster, all of that, they're they're training their psychology, right? They're training their mind in such a forwardly, if that's a word, pushing or geared way
Mm-hmm.
that when they get to whatever it is they're trying to accomplish, there is no satisfaction,
Mm-hmm.
because the habitual pushing and the habitual anxiety over scheduling and processes and efficiency and faster and all that, it carries with it so much psychological baggage that when it's time for you to slow down and stop and to just breathe and take it in, they don't actually know how to do that. And so it's difficult because you have this anxiety that's driving you forward, and then when you get to where it is you think you're trying to be, what you were looking for was not there.
Mm-hmm.
And so now on top of the anxiety, they find depression, right? And so it's a rough scene out there in the construction world in many ways.
It is, yeah, and I can totally relate to that. And I think all of us who have run their own business and done the hours. I had a similar schedule for many years, just working all the time. We had young kids, and it was just got to do it, just make it happen. And I think
Mhm.
uh, we've been through that and we've done it, and we know the toll that it takes on your body and mind and spirit and everything. And what's interesting is I feel like I'm almost on the other side of it a little bit because I don't work as hard now. And maybe that hard work did set me up for where I am right now. But there was a lot of inner work that I did to be able to slow down and enjoy it. If I would have just stopped working, I would have been miserable, bored, anxious, sitting around twiddling my thumbs. I got to do something because that's just the way my mind worked. I got to keep going and do more and more and more. And the dangerous part about when you're not paid by the hour, right? You're paid by the job. It's almost like you're fighting the clock 24/7. When you're
Mhm.
paid by the hour, you want that clock to speed up. You're like, come on, is the day over? When you work by
Right.
yourself, it's the opposite. You're going, holy crap, it's already 2 o'clock and I haven't got this done yet. And it's just this constant go go go. And it's really easy to get caught up in that, and this trade will chew you up and spit you out if you keep doing that without figuring some other stuff out. And we see it happen all the time. Really talented tile installers that are just done. They get burned out
Mhm.
and they're gone. Instead of being able to, because really the natural process would be as you get more experience in the trade would be to start to give back and mentorship roles and start a company, give employees an opportunity to learn. And but what ends up happening a lot of the times is good ones just get burned out and they figure out something else to do. Or sadly, a lot of them, the drugs and alcohol are pretty prevalent in our trade and all of the building trades. I think
Mhm.
that contracting has one of the highest suicide rates of any profession in our country, is what
Mhm.
someone had told me not too long ago. So,
Yeah. Well, I don't know necessarily the statistics on about that, but it's so ironic when you really think about that because culture as we know it and the world as we as human beings experience it is a for us most of the time is a built place, right? We're not living under the trees just sleeping in the grass, right?
mhm,
Although that has its um, tremendous benefits. But, you know, we have technology, right? Something about us and the development of our prefrontal cortex, I guess, and our creative abilities, all of that, whatever it is that has gotten humanity to this point, we build things. And, there's so much hype out there around so many other things that are not fundamental to what humans can do and are so good at. It's all these abstracted things, right? All these it's so much of making money, and even in stuff in the entrepreneurial space, it's just hype about tech. It's hype about marketing, right? And it's hype about um, you know, anytime someone asks me, "Have you read this or that book?" It's always the same regurgitated stuff that is it's vain and it's shallow and it's on the surface, and it's not actually a person creating something, right? It's not actually a person putting a product out into the world. And what's so ironic about that is the world is a built place. Like
mhm,
that's what it is. The
mhm,
physical spaces that we dwell in are created. And
mhm,
so I think that the depression levels and the anxiety levels and just the overall um I don't not necessarily sadness. I don't think of contractors and people in construction as sad, but that they're closed off, right? And they're not vulnerable. They're defensive. They're
mhm,
highly sensitized. Their families are often suffering. Um, their finances are in a mess. It's just so sad because in my view, what I get to do, I know I know the people with more money than me don't like to hear this, but I think that what I get to with more money who are maybe doing something like just marketing or sales or whatever, that kind of stuff. I think what I'm doing is far more satisfying, fulfilling, and it's contributing to direct reality, right? What we live in, what we experience, this created world that we're in. And so that is backwards, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
very, very much backward.
Mm-hmm.
They're hard trades. The trades are physical. And so it carries with it a certain amount of um, pain that you will experience. But that pain it's it's within a context, I believe, of something that can be so fulfilling that if you can maybe perform the right types of internal alchemy, if you will, and turn that pain into something of value, forge it into something of value, then the satisfaction you can find just as a simple tile guy is tremendous. I mean, it's tremendous. And
I think one of the things that those of us have found a way to persevere long term in this trade is and enjoy it and have kept our families together and just long term what the way that I view success is that they have found a purpose in what they do. And what I was hearing you talk about, that's the purpose. We are building, we are creating, we are, uh, using our talents, our strengths, our hands, right? Our dexterity. Like these hands are amazing what they can do. Our minds, how they can calculate, and we're creating these long-lasting showers, floors, and buildings. And those of us that have found like almost like a higher purpose to it than money, right? The money, man,
mhm.
and I can speak from experience. I make more money now than I ever have in my life. I am no happier than when I did my first tile job and I first felt that sense of purpose that I built this, I created it, and the person I did it for genuinely just they loved it. And I that same feeling is what I've been searching for, is that a purpose that I'm using the gifts that I have for good. And so the money part, again, I can speak from experience because I make a lot more money than I did back then. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter. It does matter, um, because I can do more with it, and I would say that my life is smoother because of it. But it doesn't change my, what you would say, happiness or fulfillment level.
Yeah, people I think get a little confused about all of that because it's tricky. If money, it's a strange thing. You bring this up and you hear these quips, right? These cliches like, well, I'd rather be crying in my Lamborghini than in my Civic or whatever. And it's like if you that's strange if you really think about it. Because if
Mhm.
you're in a position, if life has somehow, the only way that you're in a Lamborghini and in that rough of shape is you're I have so many thoughts going on right now. Give me 1 second. You are deceived in your thinking if you think that you got yourself to that position, if you are so psychologically immature and unready for pain in that position that you make a statement like, I'd rather be crying in my Lamborghini than in my Honda. No, I don't think you would. Can you imagine being that person?
Mhm.
Can you imagine having all of that, arriving at all of that, and still find that those sound like tears that are far more bitter than, me getting upset because the starter's going out in my work truck or whatever.
Mhm.
And so, I think that if you have not found what it is you're seeking and what it is you're looking for, um, in such a way that it's accessible and it's with you always and from moment to moment in any scenario or context, then it's a trick of the ego and the mind that when you get somewhere, you'll then find that
Mm-hmm.
because you won't. It won't be there. Those things are internally generated.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness is not something that someone gives you. It is internally generated. And
Mm-hmm.
if you've not figured out the internal calculus, the internal algebra, however you want to word it, um, to be that person that you envision, that you want to be, who has all of that stuff, then it's not going to be what you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we say that as in the grand scheme of things, poor people, and because in
Grand
the
scheme.
grand, actually, I take that
Yes.
back. In the real grand scheme of things, we're not poor. We're extremely,
Yeah.
extremely wealthy. That's my real belief. But in if we were to use a comparative rule, perhaps that maybe vain Americans would use, we're just middle of the road type people.
Mm-hmm.
And so those who seek more than what we have would say something like, well, what do you know? You've never experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't matter because you can go to any person at any walk of life with any level of wealth, and they will tell you exactly what I'm saying, exactly what you, Isaac, are saying, that, past a certain level, you're chasing an abstract measurement that it just shows. Hmm, I don't want to insult anyone too harshly, but
Yeah.
it essentially is just pointing to work that you have yet to accomplish internally.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I think that, this makes me, I just saw this comment. I wanted to put it up for you because that's really cool that somebody's using your scribe to do it on another
Nice.
tile work. How cool is that?
Mike, Mike, are they going to buy one of mine or are you going to make your own?
I
And
think they're
either
gonna,
either way,
either way. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah. I don't, yeah. I want to be able to let people know before we get too far because I want to keep talking to you, but I want to also let people know where to find your artwork and where they can purchase one of these mosaics.
Um, So if you go to Etsy and just type in like Grand Teton Mosaic, it'll
Okay.
pop right up, right?
Okay.
So I am running some ads on Etsy, so it pops up through either the ads right at the top,
Hmm.
or if you want the direct link, it's in my Instagram bio.
Okay.
You click the link tree, and then there's a link to the Etsy there. Um, and I, you're probably someone whose brain I should pick regarding retail sales and that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, because I don't know the path forward with a lot of this.
Hmm.
Most of this has been happening in a very organic way, which makes me extremely happy because I I I very much believe that the best things in life come through those sort of uh, how
Unf-
am I trying to word that? Say that
Unforced
again.
or natural, unforced.
Yeah, unforced, natural. I was a very forceful person for a long time.
Hmm.
And so I carried a lot of tension in my body and in my mind, like for years and years and years. Unknown. I didn't know it, right? And when things start to flow and happen in a way that is a little more natural, uh, it's just a whole lot better way of being.
Hmm.
And it leaves you feeling a lot better about what you're doing. So I don't know the way forward to scale this sort of thing. I know that it has taken off and people are really excited about them.
Hmm.
To be honest, if I could make a living out of it, I would because it brings me an extreme satisfaction.
Hmm.
I've always been kind of an artist type person. I've um, photography was a love of mine. This is one of my pictures here behind me.
Oh.
Photography was a love of mine for years and years, and art was watercolors. I mean, all of that.
Hmm.
I'm one of those people that's just interested in everything,
Hmm.
right? And so to have a product that I'm putting out into the world that to me is art, and then to see people resonate with that and want to buy it,
Hmm.
it is it's really cool. Like it's
Hmm.
very cool. And I'm gonna keep pursuing it and keep making them and keep selling them hopefully.
Yeah, it's incredible. And, I think that what you have going too is that you're a skilled installer as well. So not only can you make these mosaics, but you could build a shower. And
Hmm.
I think you'll probably be able to raise your prices as you gain more just time as time doing it. You'll be able to make enough money to where maybe you can dedicate a little more time to figuring out how to just retail the the mosaics themselves. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think you're gonna do really well with it. And I think mainly as just to start out, right, you don't really need to change much because you're an installer with a lot of skill, and as you gain traction, people are gonna want you to do their work more and more. Higher demand is gonna allow you a little more freedom to do what you really want. At least that's what happened in my case. And I've been allowed to, people ask me a lot, how do you have the time to run a tile business, make videos? Uh, you have 4 kids. How do you do all of this stuff? And it's because I've, as the success grew and my company was able to grow, then I was able to find more time to dedicate to what I really wanted to do, and which is, making these videos to help people, to help them do their own projects, to help them, uh, even just motivation, inspiration for people to take on these little tasks that seem so daunting and scary. And even for young people in our trade that are just getting into our trade, I want to help them get confidence so that they can take those scary steps of putting themselves out there. So but I couldn't have done one before the other, right? I had to build a successful tile installation company, which you've done in the past, and but I also believe that one man tile show, the one man show can be very successful too if you're in high, if you have something unique to offer, right? If you have
Hmm.
what you do, you have something very unique and different that the next guy doesn't have. So that's really cool. I think again, it will just kind of be one of those organic things that starts to grow. But yeah, I'd love to help you out with, if you have any questions on how to market your stuff and get it out there. So I'm excited.
Yeah. I, I mean, I'm going to give it time. I'm going to give it all the breathing room that it needs
Hmm.
to develop as organically as it can, and also to give myself my best opportunity to not deceive myself,
Hmm.
right? Because if you get a little spark of interest in something and then you just go gung ho at it, like you've not actually given it time to really breathe and to develop and to gauge the interest and to
Hmm.
understand it, the feasibility of it. The neat thing about making these is like that Etsy store I threw up on a whim. Like I'm just a whim.
Yeah.
And the reason I did that, and it wasn't actually, it was deliberately a whim. I should put it that way, as funny as that sounds, because I sat around thinking, how am I going to make a website? How am I going to do this and that? And I thought, people like these. It's gaining traction. I don't have to sell them anything. If people want them,
Hmm.
then now there are times to sell things. I get that. But my litmus test with these was essentially I want to do the minimum and see what happens. See, do people want to buy them? Because
Hmm.
the other thing is I don't want to go gangbusters just knocking myself out trying to do something that ultimately is a dead end, right? I would like to proceed forward in such a way that I enjoy every step of the process. So
Hmm.
that way, if I get to the point where I can put the pedal all the way down and sort of shift gears maybe from how I've traditionally done things, I have the confidence of knowing that the process that got me to that point will sustain it going forward,
Yeah.
right? And so there was nothing unsustainable there because it was happening organic. I'm going to lean forward so I can read what that says that you put up there.
Oh,
Yeah, organic happenings. I like that. Life is a happening, is it not?
yeah. Yeah, it
It,
is.
it, it's a
Yes.
happening.
Nathan, you had an Instagram story that I saw. I think it was just a couple weeks ago, and you said my office. You just had text on it and it showed. I think it was a tub surround, and you said my office, and I replied to you. I said more like your stage, like you're performing,
Hmm.
and you said that's a
Yeah.
good way to look at it. And then I asked if you had read the tile letter, and you said no. And I said, well, I'll give you some context. And I was gonna try to type out a paragraph, but I couldn't really get it together. So I wanted to tell you what it is and the
Yeah.
people who are watching. So this is a tile letter. I don't know if who's in the NTCA or not, but I don't know. My opinion on the NTCA, I don't think they do a whole lot, and I could be wrong. I could just be uneducated, but anyways, one of the the good things they do is they send out this tile letter, and I'm always like to
You
read
don't,
the letter to the editor. So I'm going to read this, and it talks about knowing your worth, which I think really kind of ties in good with what we're talking about, because we're talking about tile installations that are going to be on the higher end, right? I mean, if you're putting this much time, care, effort into building somebody's shower, this isn't like a flip job. Somebody, hey, I'm selling my house. Can you come do this shower for me? I mean, this is kind of a different level, and this is kind of what her letter talks about is how to get paid for what you're worth. And so her name is Leslie Godden, and it's titled "Know Your Worth and Know Your Audience." It says, "Happy New Year. This morning I was reading a Facebook post many of you have likely seen. It was about world-class violinist Joshua Bell playing anonymously on a $3.5 million Stradivarius violin for 45 minutes in a DC Metro subway, among throngs of people going to work and appointments, for which he raised $30 in tips." So he only raised $30 for the whole day playing a $3.5 million violin. 2 days before, the post says he played to a sold-out crowd in Boston where tickets averaged over $100 each, and this was back in 2007. So those tickets would probably be well over $200 now. The thrust of the post was to know your worth and to remove yourself from an environment that doesn't serve or reward you. I agree with knowing your worth. That is essential. You invest time in training, education, years of practicing your craft and your artistry, and customers expecting you to accept a pittance for your professionalism are seriously not respecting what goes into your craft, which we see that a lot. People beating tile guys up for their price. I would hear it a lot when I was early on. I would hear the term, "Well, that's more than I make." like we don't
yeah.
deserve to make as much as the people that own the house for some reason. But something else occurred to me. In addition to knowing your worth, know your audience. If I were a betting woman, I would wager that Joshua Bell did not expect accolades or large sums of money when he gifted his beatific music to people rushing back and forth to work. And the original poster seemed to think that people didn't appreciate Bell's artistry. The experiment proved that the extraordinary in an ordinary environment does not shine and is so often overlooked and undervalued. I have a different perspective. I'd say the experiment illustrated that people were intent on getting to work and catching their trains and weren't attuned to the glories of the music. In a concert hall, the audience is expecting and prepared to enjoy the performance and have made music a priority for the evening. It isn't competing with deadlines and schedules and jostling crowds. So, yes, know your worth, but also know your audience and read the room. Realize that when people have other things on their minds, your special talent may not touch them unless it is addressing their concerns of the moment. What are your clients' needs? What are their practical concerns? What is their budget? What other aspects of the project are they juggling as well as the tile? How can you make your component of their project not only a beautiful, professionally installed, long-lasting aspect of their space, but how do you make it easier for the customer to work with you? Doing so can help remove any obstacles the customer may have to meeting your well-deserved price by adding value not only to the tile installation, but the entire project experience. So she talks about a few other things, and she ends with God bless Leslie. So yeah, so that was the context of when I said it's more like your stage, not your office.
Hmm.
You're performing. And after I read that, I was actually talking with my wife, and I thought about it, and I go, yeah, our stage is someone's house. We're
Hmm.
performing, and it's my job as the business owner to get the customers prepared to go to the concert hall, right? To make them aware of what is going to be going on. That it's not just you slam up tile, right? You probably hear it sometimes. The customer says, "I want to tile the shower," and they say, "How long is it going to take? A day, or is it going to be 1 or 2 days?" And they're talking about a shower, and I'm going, "Well, this is going to be like 2 weeks at the minimum." So they don't know. So it's my job to get them ready to what they're going to experience. And my social media has kind of done that. My social
Hmm.
media, a lot of people, when they call me, they've already seen my YouTube videos. And then I also have a showroom where they come in, they see some of our work. And there's all these things that we can do. And you don't need a YouTube channel and you don't need a showroom to be able to communicate what you're going to bring to the project. And I think that's where people get lost in price a lot. They just get into this bidding war mindset that if they're not the lowest bid, then F the customer. It's like this thing. Oh, okay, go with the cheaper bid, right? Good luck with that. It's like, well, did you properly educate them on the differences between what you do and what the other guys do? And so I think that's something that a lot of us can take, because we all want to get paid what we feel that we're worth, right? And so I think that's just a good mindset. What do you think about that?
A lot, but I think a lot about a
There
lot of
was a
things.
lot in there.
Yeah. So the first thing that struck me about that is I think that I saw the thing with Josh and the Stradivarius, the $3.5 million violin.
Hmm.
If we could look at that perhaps um, through a different perspective, um, maybe detach any lesson about that from the economic aspect, right? And perhaps consider him as an artist. He as an artist is world class. And artists, if there's one thing I know about artists, and maybe just every human in general, is we all have a secret, right? I like to think of it as a secret. And our secret, each of us, has an internal feeling that we have something to offer the world that nobody else has, right? All of us have it. We all have it. When I used to pastor, I used to say to people that God, and excuse me, I'm not trying to make this religious, just so everyone understands, I don't pastor anymore and I'm not preaching to anyone. God always felt like to me an entity that made me feel like the center of the universe. And I don't mean that in an egoic way. Um, an egoic way would be, you know, making your context about you forcing everything around you to be about you. I don't mean that. I mean in the sense that you are a single subject in this universe, which means you have one set of eyes to look at the world. That's it. You have one point of view. And so it's singular in nature. And because it's singular in nature, if you were to have any sort of dialogue with a being, right, that we define as God, who is all powerful and omniscient and all of these things, the nature of how you look at the world being one perspective and then interacting with this vast universe around us,
Mm-hmm.
it can only feel, it's the only way it can feel if you're analyzing the experience of how you live, it can only feel like the world is around you, right? That's how we live. That's how we experience the world. Now, like I said, it doesn't mean that you force your context to be about you, because then you're destructive. You're not necessarily analyzing the nature of your existence and trying to understand it. You're more trying to fit onto a environment around you what you think it should be. And you can't do that because you don't know what it should be. It requires far more wisdom and knowledge than any of us have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, long-winded, I said all that to say that artist types are painfully aware of that urge inside of them to express something,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have something that they offer to this universe. And it seems to me to be something that is not, I don't think that's vain. I don't, or not vain. That's not the right word. I don't think that that is not real. I think that that is, um, hmm, it's something to do with the nature of the simulation, right? For whatever reason, this is how we are.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it has a certain impact on our psyche and how we view things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I think that also, I could be wrong, he was not just doing an economic experiment. I think he was reveling in the knowledge, the personal knowledge of what he was doing, with what tool he was doing it, and who he is,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that he was putting himself in that context where he would be a nobody.
Mm-hmm.
To come back to religion, think about Christ. That's a perfect example, right? Who, if you're going to take the literal C's of the the manifestation, right, of God in the flesh, right? If you want to go with the theological terms of it, I hope that these terms don't get you in trouble on YouTube. I'm not having necessarily a religious conversation. I'm just using this for the symbolism of it.
Just don't say anything about medical
He
practices.
Okay, okay. Um, he you you think about just think about um the experience of that.
Mm-hmm.
Who was this baby? Well, nobody. He was just a baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is, but he's the creator, right? And so there's that twofold thing, and that's all of us. That's not, we reserve that language in theological terms. We reserve that type of language for just um the technical objects of the symbol, right? The symbol of the Christ we reserved for just Jesus Christ. But there's a harmony to that. There's a pattern to that that is applicable to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
We are all nobodies in the world, and yet we are creators, right? And so we all have this secret thing inside of us, I feel like. And so there's that aspect of what he was doing. I think he was doing something that brought him a level of satisfaction because he could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, yeah, you're right. There is the aspect of you have to have the pieces in order, right? It it you, hmm, it doesn't work unless you work, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
going to turn out the way that you want it to turn out if you're not deliberate, if you're not thoughtful, if you're not uh, contemplative and honest,
Mm-hmm.
brutally honest. Uh, I am not personally a recovering alcoholic or drug addict or that sort of thing, but I love in like the 12-step program, the first step, right? I don't know exactly what the language is of it, but it's essentially something like, you know, recognizing that you are completely helpless in that situation.
Power,
And that is the,
powerless. Yeah.
what is it?
We admitted we were powerless.
Powerless.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. And that is the brutal honesty that is required for any person to make any progress.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only way forward is from where you are. Like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
There is no, I mean, I don't want to say there is no, we like to look at these fairy tale and romantic examples of these quantum leaps or these paradigm shifts where a person overnight experiences this or that. But that's dangerous because that's really, it's like putting a toddler in the ring with Tyson. Yeah, he's got the spotlight and he's
Mm-hmm.
got the paycheck now,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't get there the same way
Yeah.
that Tyson got there.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's a lot of people have that going on in their mind and they don't recognize, like, no, there's steps
Mm-hmm.
that you have to take every one of them. You can't
Yeah.
skip any of them. You have to take
Yeah.
all of them, and it's painful.
Yeah, it's good. That's good advice for the people just getting into our trade. I have a lot of young people that reach out and they how did you do it? How did you get there? What did you do? And they want the simple answer. And really, you just got to do it. You have to put in the time.
Right.
You have to just you know look at it as a journey, not the destination. Just take it day by day. Very simple. Stay honest. Be humble. Work your ass off. Just the very basic things, and then the good things just start to happen and unfold. That's my experience anyways. And everybody's definition of success is different. I couldn't I couldn't see uh, a picture of what I would call success without keeping my wife. I've been
Hmm.
married to the same woman all my life. uh, some people might not have that as their version of success, so it's very difficult. But
Hmm.
in the way I did it, it was just doing the very simple things and letting them happen. And there's no substitute for experience in what we do. There is no substitute. There's no shortcut. If you try to get too big too fast, so I got into the trade in 2002 is when I started my own business. I'd been doing tile work for a few years before that, and then we had this boom in the economy, right up, and then it crashed. And so I think I got a little too big too fast, and then I suffered. But even at that, it's just a stumbling block, and you get experience for it. So as we get into this next chapter of our economy, I feel like I'm pretty well prepared because I've already been through it and I'm not scared of it, and I have dealt with it before. So even the setbacks are learning experience, and I don't think
Yeah,
there's any substitute for that.
there really is no failure in life. If we want to take a real zoomed out view, we're all fully in the sense that my life will end in the same way that your life will end. We'll take our last breath, and what lies beyond that is not the nature of this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But the nature of this discussion is this: we're all fully in. And so what we often call failure, it's not. It's just a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And you either learn from the lesson or you don't. If you don't learn from the lesson, then life is graceful. And because it's graceful, you will get another chance to learn the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
We interpret that as like, more pain, but it's like, no, it's just another lesson
Mm-hmm.
because there's no failure in life. You don't get out,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, you could end it prematurely however you want, but it all said and done, it's the same experience that all of us have.
Yeah, you get
And
an.
so it's not failure. It's just a lesson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good way to look at it. You know, I yeah, this this conversation is opened my eyes quite a bit, Nathan. I got a lot to think about with it. I love how you philosophize and how you put things, and you got a ton of experience, and I'm really grateful that I got to share some ideas with you and share your artwork with our viewers. This live stream did great. We had 554 people on here watching this. So thank you everybody who tuned in. I try to keep these things about an hour, and we've gone a little long, but that's okay. So yeah, Nathan, it's been awesome. And so Instagram is probably the best place to find you, right? I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Vision, Stone and Tile.
vision.
And I'm very, very responsive on there, and I love talking to people. So if anyone wants to chat, look me up, Vision, Stone and Tile.
Very cool. Yeah, so I'll definitely be chatting with you, Nathan, and yeah, whatever I can do to help you with whatever, whether that's your YouTube channel or some of the marketing stuff, I'd be really glad to help you out. I think you're a good person, and I can't wait to see what happens with you in the future.
Awesome. It's been great. Really enjoyed it.
All right, Nathan. All right, you guys. Well, I love you all. I love being your tile coach, and we'll see you on the next video.